Resilient coastal communities are those that integrate natural features and processes into coastal protection and management. Restoration efforts on Wisconsin Point are an example of using innovative, nature-based techniques to make our Lake Superior coasts more resilient.
The more that we can look at more sustainable, softer approaches to hazard mitigation and resiliency, the better off we are.
Together, Wisconsin Point and Minnesota Point form the Duluth Superior Harbor, the largest working harbor in the Great Lakes. Bordered by Lake Superior and Eloise Bay within the St. Louis River estuary, Wisconsin Point features coastal dunes, a pine forest, and wetland habitats. Wisconsin Point is a cherished part of the Duluth Superior waterfront, featuring nearly 3 miles of dunes, public beaches and trails, and other recreation opportunities.
Wisconsin Point is so loved and cherished by so many residents and folks from beyond this area.
Wisconsin Point has a deeper cultural significance to all of the Lake Superior Ojibwe or Chippewa tribes, with the point serving as one of the first tribal settlements in the region. Today, Wisconsin Point is a protected Chippewa burial site. Public engagement was one of the most critical pieces of the process of planning restoration efforts throughout Wisconsin Point.
The public input and getting that stakeholder engagement is super critical on any project, but I feel like even more so on a project that is very public and a space that is loved by the community, and to really just take the time to you not only host the public meetings, but assure that you're getting input from stakeholders and the participation. And so really just to be open up and recognize that from beginning to end could be slightly different or could be very different depending on that input.
Providing access and experiences to our coastal resources is very important. Without those sorts of experiences, we don't get a chance to foster and encourage and grow the stewardship ethic that is required to preserve these important places.
The Wisconsin Point restoration effort was a multi-year effort to stabilize the existing dune system through revegetation, redirecting public access points and trails to low-impact trails and boardwalks, and restoring dune habitat on reclaimed trails and parking lots. One of the most innovative approaches used during the restoration project was the installation of a living shoreline along Eloise Bay after extensive storm damage undercut the bank.
The idea was to create a living shoreline as opposed to just rip-wrapping the bank because it has a greater ecological benefit. Looked into the current science on living shorelines, using the SAGE approach developed by NOAA and the Army Corps of Engineers, and discussed those concepts with the Wisconsin Sea Grant coastal engineers to create the living shoreline design that we came up with.
The Eloise Bay living shoreline incorporates a rock sill to break the initial wave energy, with an emergent wetland behind the sill that protects the slope of the bank. The toe of the slope is protected with a soil lift, layering sand with geotextiles to keep the rock sill in place against wave action and ice. The entire slope was protected with a willow shrub layer closest to the rock sill, along with a mixture of native plant plugs and seeds to establish an emergent wetland. Project managers worked with the Wisconsin DNR and University of Wisconsin Superior to identify and source native seeds and plants. Living shoreline projects are relatively new to the Great Lakes, but are used extensively in marine environments. While this project is new, project managers agree that it has met their expectations. It has been a learning experience.
A couple of those challenges would be trying to manage the woody debris that ends up getting thrown up into that space. as well as establishing a few of those plants with the really fluctuating water levels is posing a bit of a challenge.
Communities and property owners alike can learn a great deal from the restoration and living shoreline work at Wisconsin Point. From a project management perspective, from site managers and funding agencies, it is important to be adaptable and to maintain strong communication with stakeholders.
Well, this one is a pretty common lesson learned, but I would say, early and often communication with regulators is very important. We had all the regulators on site for pre-application meetings, discussing with them the concepts early in the design phase. So when it came time to submit the permits and when it came time for them to review the permit applications, they had already been involved, had given verbal input, had seen the site, were involved in conversations with us as far as seed mixes and plant materials to use. So just keeping them involved from the very beginning makes the permitting a much smoother process.
I also think that just being open and willing to modify along the way and to change things along the way as potential challenges come up.
If you're thinking about a restoration or living shoreline project on your property, it's important to consider how your project may disturb the site, limitations of equipment being able to access your site, and other factors that can increase your project costs and the long-term maintenance required. If you need assistance in designing a project, consider reaching out to a restoration contractor or engineer to go through your options. The Wisconsin Point projects demonstrate that these nature-based approaches work in Lake Superior, and these techniques can be incorporated into other projects.
I'm just really looking forward to seeing how this project and all the native restoration projects that we do, evolve over time, because that's how you really see the benefits and the long-term effects that these types of projects have on the environment and the local community. So,
and I think overall, if that living shoreline ends up flourishing with the plant growth a bit and the erosion ceases, that will be a significant success as well. Not that I'm desiring more of those severe storm events, but as they do occur, as this project continues to prove that those shoreline stabilization efforts are successful, will be fantastic.